In the endless dark of space, countless empires rose and fell, but one law spread quietly from system to system, whispered in mess halls carved into ship walls, and passed down by veterans who had survived battles others could not. Humans are off limits. We do not hurt them. No one remembered who first said it or when. Some claimed it came from the Seraph Empire after their fleets vanished in the Orion Belt. Others believed the insectoid Krelln made the rule after their war broods never returned from a single campaign. And some thought it was older than memory itself, a rule forged from blood and silence. But for the young soldiers aboard the warship Drelmax Fang, it was only a rumor. They sat in the dim training bay polishing their weapons, while the older veterans spoke with heavy voices. "Do not make the mistake of underestimating them," growled Sergeant Krull, a scarred warrior with one missing eye. His voice echoed against the steel walls. "You think them weak because they are small. You think them fragile because they bleed easily. But I fought near them once, long ago. I saw what they can do." A hush fell over the room. The younger recruits leaned forward, curious, their eyes glowing in the faint light. One finally asked, "What did you see, Sergeant?" Krall's single eye burned as he remembered. "I saw a human ship, broken, leaking fire and smoke. We thought it finished. Our commander ordered us to close in, to tear them apart. But they didn't surrender. They didn't run. Even as their decks burned, their crew fought us, every last one of them. They fought with broken guns, with bare hands, with their own blood if they had to. They should have died within minutes, but it took us hours. And by the end, only I and a handful of others survived." The recruits swallowed hard. One of them, a bold youth named Yarn, scoffed to break the tension. "Stories. Old men always tell stories to frighten us. Maybe the humans just got lucky." The sergeant slammed his claw against the wall, the sound sharp and final. No, it was not luck. It was something else. Something that cannot be measured. And that is why we do not touch them. That is why the rule exists. But rules are fragile when pride is involved. On the command deck, Prince Varric, heir to the Zor Dominion, stood tall in his polished armor, his crimson crest shining under the lights. He had overheard the whispers, the fear, the rule that restrained his people, and he hated it. "Cowards," he muttered as he gazed at the star maps glowing before him. "We rule half the sectors, yet we bend to some primitive race from a dirt world. Humans off limits. This insult has lasted too long." His advisor, Captain Relor, shifted uneasily. "My prince, I must warn you. The rule is not born from cowardice. It is survival. Empires greater than ours tested the humans and were erased. You should not—" "Silence," Varric snapped, his eyes burning with arrogance. "I will not live in the shadow of a myth. If humans bleed, they can be broken. And I will be the one to prove it." His words traveled quickly through the ship, spreading like fire. The younger soldiers felt both fear and excitement. The veterans lowered their heads in silence, their scars whispering what the prince refused to hear. That night in the crew barracks, Yarn smirked at the others. "See, the prince knows the truth. Humans are just flesh and blood. They hide behind their legend and we cower like hatchlings. But soon we'll see what they really are." But the sergeant only shook his head. His single eye stared into the darkness, heavy with memories. "Flesh and blood, yes, but something more. And you will regret the day you mocked them." Outside the viewport, stars drifted past, quiet and endless. Somewhere in that ocean of light, human ships traveled unseen. And though the crew of the Drelmax Fang did not know it yet, their path was already set. The rule was about to be broken, and when that happened, the galaxy itself would remember why it existed. The warship Drelmax Fang drifted through the cold silence of the Neuraxis belt, its engines pulsing like the heartbeat of a predator. Prince Varric stood at the command deck, hands locked behind his back, eyes sharp with pride. He had declared the rule a lie, and now he searched for proof. The crew whispered behind him, their voices low. "He seeks them. The humans," one muttered. Another shivered. "Why invite death?" But none dared speak openly. The prince's word was law, and no soldier wished to be branded a coward. Then it happened. The long-range sensors caught a faint signal, a distress beacon echoing weakly through the void. An isolated ship, human in design, drifted on the edge of the asteroid field. Its hull was cracked, smoke curling from its ruptured engines. It looked like prey waiting for the kill. The prince's eyes lit up. "There," he said, his voice sharp as a blade. "Do you see, Captain Relor? Their ships are weak, fragile. One crippled vessel is all it takes to unravel their myth. but Relor's scales rippled with unease. "My prince, even a wounded human ship is dangerous. The rule exists because—" "Enough!" Varric snapped. "Prepare the strike teams. I will not miss this chance." The order spread through the ship like a current of fire. Weapons were armed, boarding claws prepared, fighters fueled. The younger soldiers grinned with excitement, eager to carve their names into legend. Yet the older ones moved slowly, dread heavy in their hearts. Sergeant Krall, sitting among the troops, tightened his grip on his rifle. His single eye stared at the distant human vessel. To the untrained, it looked broken. But Krall had seen this picture before. A wounded human ship was not a dying animal. It was bait. The warship crept closer, its shadow falling across the smaller vessel. Alien fighters darted forward, circling like sharks around blood in the water. Then the human ship spoke. A single message flashed across every channel. Simple words burned into the screens. "Do not approach. This is your only warning." The alien soldiers laughed nervously. "They dare to threaten us?" Jarn, the bold recruit, sneered. "They're helpless. They can't even move." But Sergeant Krall's blood turned cold. He had heard those words before. Long ago, another human ship had given the same warning. His commander had ignored it. None of them had survived. The prince, blind with pride, smirked. Pathetic. Empty threats. Fire on them. The order was given. Blazing plasma struck the human vessel, tearing deeper into its hull. The ship shuddered but did not break. Smoke and sparks scattered into space. For a moment silence returned, and then it moved. Slowly, impossibly, the human ship shifted. Its engines, though damaged, roared to life with a defiant glow. Panels along its wings unfolded, revealing hidden weapons humming with energy. A storm of light burst forth, cutting down 2 alien fighters in a single strike. The silence of the crew turned into shock. "Impossible," gasped Captain Relor. "That ship should not be able to fight." But fight it did. The crippled vessel moved with a precision no one expected, firing not in desperation but with cold, calculated control. Every shot landed true. Alien fighters scattered, but the humans picked them off one by one. Yarn's grin vanished. This isn't a broken ship. It's a trap!" The bridge shuddered as alarms blared. The humans had locked onto the Drillmax Fang itself, targeting its shields. The great warship rocked under the assault, energy screens flickering. The prince clenched his teeth. "Impossible. One small ship cannot challenge us."
"Return fire!"
But the truth was undeniable. The humans fought like no other race. They did not run, they did not plead, and they did not break. Their ship might bleed fire, but its crew stood unyielding. Sergeant Krall whispered to himself, voice heavy with grim certainty. The rule was not a warning. It was a prayer, and we have broken it. The battle raged for minutes that felt like hours. Alien fighters fell in burning arcs. The human ship, though scarred, kept moving, each strike sharper than the last. And then the human commander's voice cut through the comms, calm and cold. "We warned you. You chose this." The crew froze at the sound. It was not the voice of prey. It was the voice of judgment. On the bridge, Captain Relor's scales paled. "My prince, if we continue, this ship will destroy us. We must retreat." But pride chained Varric's tongue. His fist shook as the human ship turned its weapons fully on them. For the first time, fear crept into his proud eyes. The alien warship Drillmax Fang shook under the pressure of the battle. Sparks leapt from control panels. Alarms wailed across the bridge, and fear spread like fire through the crew. Yet in the middle of the chaos, the human ship remained steady, scarred but unbroken, drifting like a predator waiting for the perfect strike. The humans had spoken once already. "Do not approach. This is your only warning." But Prince Varric ignored it, and now the reply had begun. The crippled human vessel moved with impossible speed. It should not have been able to fly, but its engines flared brighter than ever, guiding it with sharp, precise maneuvers. Alien fighters swarmed it like insects, but the ship twisted between them, firing bolts of light that cut through armored hulls as if they were paper. On the bridge of the Fang, Captain Relor clutched the railing, his voice tight with dread. "They are toying with us, my prince. This is not a broken vessel. It is a blade hidden in plain sight." Prince Varric snarled, his pride bleeding into rage. "One ship cannot defeat a war fleet. They bleed as we do, they burn as we do. I will not bow to a myth." He slammed his fist down on the console. "Send the heavy cannons! Crush them!" Massive plasma lances charged across the Fang's hull, Glowing like suns, they fired in perfect unison, rivers of fire surging toward the human vessel. For a moment, the stars themselves seemed to vanish in the brilliance, but the humans did not flinch. Their ship pivoted at the last second, its armor plates glowing as energy shields absorbed part of the attack. The rest of the fire roared past, striking empty space. Then the humans answered. A single beam of piercing light erupted from the ship's underbelly. It was narrow, almost small compared to the alien barrage, but its strike was surgical. The beam cut straight through one of the Fang's side batteries, tearing it from the hull. Explosions rippled across the warship, shaking the crew to their knees. Sergeant Kral, bracing himself against the wall, whispered to no one in particular, "This is the human way. They bleed, they suffer, but they never fall. And when they answer with fury." Down in the barracks, young soldiers like Yarn stared at the live battle feed, their mouths dry. "That ship? It's fighting like an army all by itself," Yarn muttered. The laughter he once used to mock the old veterans was gone. His eyes held only fear. Above them, in the command deck, the humans spoke again. This time their voice filled the entire ship, cold and steady, carried on every frequency. "You ignored our warning. Now you will understand." The words were not shouted, not filled with rage. They were calm. That calmness was worse than anger. It carried certainty, the certainty of a predator who knew victory was already in its hands. Panic began to seep through the Fang's corridors. Even disciplined soldiers trained for war felt their claws tremble as the human ship cut down fighter after fighter. Each move was exact, each shot deliberate. The humans wasted nothing, not energy, not time, not breath. Captain Relor turned to the prince, his voice cracking. "My prince, we must retreat. This battle is lost. The humans fight as if death itself obeys them." But Prince Varric's pride blinded him. His eyes blazed with stubborn fire. "No, I am heir to the Zor Dominion. I will not retreat from prey. If they bleed, they can die, and I will be the one to show the galaxy." Even as he spoke, the human ship darted forward, dangerously close to the Fang. Its cannons hummed with growing power. Alien officers shouted warnings as readings spiked across their screens. "Target lock," one cried. "They are locking onto the main core." The entire bridge froze. To aim at the core was not a threat. It was a promise of destruction. For the first time, the prince's voice faltered. They would not dare. But the humans dared. The crippled ship, bleeding fire from its wounds, now stood face to face with the mighty warship, and though it was smaller, weaker, and damaged, it radiated strength. Its crew had chosen not to die quietly. The message was clear. Humans did not care about odds. They did not fear pain. They did not run from stronger enemies. If you pushed them, if you tried to break them, they would rise from their wounds and strike with everything they had. The bridge of the Fang trembled under the weight of that truth. The human commander's voice came one last time, sharp as a blade in the dark. "We do not yield. Remember this." And with that, the crippled vessel unleashed its full barrage. The battle between the mighty warship Drelmax Fang and the single crippled human vessel had reached a boiling point. The alien soldiers had expected an easy kill, a broken enemy to be swept aside. Instead, they found themselves outmatched by a ship that refused to die. The crew whispered among themselves, their voices trembling. "This is madness. One ship should not do this," a gunner muttered. The stories were true, another hissed. "We should never have come here." But on the command deck, Prince Varric's pride burned hotter than ever. His jaw was tight, his claws dug into the railing, and his eyes shone with rage. Retreat was impossible in his mind. To run now would brand him a coward forever. Captain Relor stepped forward, his voice shaking but firm. "My prince, we cannot win this battle. The human vessel is not prey, it is a predator. If we do not withdraw, we risk losing the Fang itself." Varric's nostrils flared. "Withdraw? Run from one crippled ship? Never. I am heir to the Dominion. I will show the galaxy what happens when humans dare to stand against us." The prince turned sharply to the weapons officer. "Target their engines. I will not destroy them outright. I will break them slowly, piece by piece. I want them to know despair before they die." The crew obeyed, though their hands shook. The Fang's cannons roared, streams of plasma tearing across the void. Explosions rippled along the human vessel's hull. Sections broke away, flames scattered. And for a moment it looked as if the humans had finally reached their limit. A cheer rose from some of the younger soldiers. "They are finished," Yarn shouted with relief. The prince has done it. But Sergeant Krull did not cheer. His single eye narrowed. He had seen humans at their worst moments before, and he knew this was not the end. No, he whispered. They are not finished. They are only beginning. Then it happened. From the burning wreck of the human ship came a flare of light. Not a desperate strike, not a last scream of defiance, but a controlled, deliberate surge. Hidden panels unfolded along its scarred hull, revealing new weapons that the aliens had never seen before. The glow was steady, calm, terrifying. The crew of the Fang froze. The human ship, crippled and bleeding, had revealed it still carried enough power to destroy them. Captain Relor's voice cracked. "My prince, we should retreat now, before it is too late." But Varric refused to listen. His pride drowned out the fear in his heart. "No, they bleed, they suffer, and now they will fall. I will prove to all that the rule was a lie." He raised his hand high, claws gleaming. "All cannons, fire at will." The Fang's full arsenal ignited, streaks of blazing plasma filling the stars. It was the fury of an empire unleashed. But in their desperation, the aliens forgot the one truth that every veteran knew. Humans never wasted energy. Humans never fought without purpose. The crippled vessel moved again, weaving through the storm like a ghost. Every cannon that fired at it missed by inches, striking only empty space. And then, in a single instant, the humans answered. Their weapons lit up the dark, precise and merciless. They did not aim for random sections of the Fang. They struck the weak points, the joints between armor plates, the engines, the shield generators. With each hit, the warship shuddered and groaned, its proud form bending under the weight of perfect strikes. Panic erupted on the bridge. Officers shouted warnings, engineers screamed as fires spread, alarms shrieked louder than ever. "Shields failing," one cried. "Engines hit!" Another shouted. The mighty Fang was crumbling, and through the chaos the human voice returned, cold and sharp. "You bleed us, we strike harder. You break us, we rise stronger. You should have remembered the rule." The crew froze at the words. Their hearts pounded with dread. The legends they had dismissed now spoke with the weight of truth. Prince Varric's hands trembled, but still he refused to accept it. His pride, his arrogance, chained him to his mistake. No, this cannot be. I am the heir. I will not be defeated by vermin from a dirt world." Sergeant Krull turned his eye on the prince, his voice dark. "This is your mistake, my lord. You thought them prey. You thought the rule was fear. But the rule was wisdom, and you have doomed us all." The Fang lurched violently as another strike tore through its hull. Entire decks went dark, fires spreading unchecked. The soldiers, once eager for glory, now scrambled in terror. No longer warriors, but cornered animals. And still, the humans came, the crippled ship, scarred and burning, pressed forward like a beast that could not die. Every move it made declared a truth the galaxy had forgotten. Humans might bleed, but they never yielded. Prince Varric stared at the burning ship before him, and for the first time doubt cracked through his pride. He realized too late that his mistake was not underestimating the humans. It was believing they were like any other species at all. They were not. And the rule existed because of that. The mighty warship Drelmek's Fang was burning. Its once proud hull cracked with fire, smoke billowed through corridors, and soldiers ran in panic. The human vessel, scarred and crippled, still pressed forward, its weapons glowing like the eyes of an unyielding predator. On the bridge, Prince Varric gripped the railing so hard his claws cut into the steel. His voice was a roar of fury. How? How can one broken ship defy an empire? Captain Relor turned toward him, fear plain in his eyes. "Because, my prince, humans are not like us. They bleed, yes, but they do not stop. Their wounds do not weaken them. They sharpen them." The words echoed in the tense silence, broken only by the ship's groans. Sergeant Krull, crouched near a cracked wall, stared at the live battle feed. His single eye reflected the flames. "I told you," he muttered, more to himself than anyone. "I saw this before. Wounded, dying, yet they fight as if pain gives them strength." Down in the barracks, young recruit Jarn held his rifle close, his bravado gone. The ship rocked violently, throwing soldiers from their bunks. He whispered in terror, "They're supposed to be weak, fragile, but they bleed and fight harder than us." The human vessel darted forward again, fire trailing from its engines. Its hull was torn, its surface blackened with burns, yet it moved with purpose. Its guns unleashed another storm, striking the Fang's shield generator. The protective barrier shattered, exposing the warship's vulnerable core. A shockwave tore through the decks. Lights flickered, consoles exploded, and screams filled the corridors. The Fang soldiers, once so confident, were now nothing more than frightened prey. On the command deck, alarms blared as the human ship locked onto their engines. The targeting sensors screamed red. The humans spoke again. Their voice filled every corner of the Fang, steady and merciless. You bleed us, but we endure. You break us, but we rise. We do not stop. Remember this, the crew trembled. Those words were not shouted, they were calm, controlled like iron forged in fire. Captain Relor gritted his teeth. My prince, we must surrender. There is no shame in survival. The humans have already proven their power. If we do not yield, they will tear us apart. But Varric's pride held him captive. His eyes burned with madness. Surrender? To Dirtworld savages? Never. They will bleed as we do, and I will watch them die. The prince gave the order for a desperate counterattack. All remaining cannons fired in a storm of blazing plasma. The void itself seemed to ignite as the Fang unleashed every ounce of its fury. The human vessel was caught in the barrage. Explosions tore across its hull, flames burst from its sides, and for a moment it vanished in the fire. A cheer rose from the alien crew. We did it, Yarn cried, his voice breaking with relief. They're finished this time. But the cheer died quickly. From the burning flames, the human ship emerged, broken, battered, but alive. Its guns still glowed, its engines still burned, and its course still pointed straight at the Fang. Gasps filled the bridge. The sight was impossible. Any other species would have collapsed. Any other fleet would have surrendered. But the humans pressed on, every wound turning them into something fiercer. Sergeant Kral's voice cut through the silence, low and grim. This is why the rule exists. Humans bleed, but they do not stop. They fight until their last breath, and even then their last breath is a weapon. The human vessel fired again, tearing through the Fang's engines. The warship jolted violently, lights dying as systems shut down. Power faded across the decks, leaving only red emergency glow. The mighty Fang, symbol of the Zor Dominion, drifted powerless in the void. Panic erupted. Soldiers shouted, scrambling for escape pods, but many were sealed shut or destroyed. Smoke choked the air. Fear crushed their courage. On the bridge, Captain Relor finally dropped to his knees. We cannot win. The rule was never a myth. It was truth, and we broke it. Prince Varric staggered forward, staring at the burning human ship on the view screen. His voice cracked. They should be dead. They should be finished. How? How do they still fight? No one answered. The truth was plain. Humans bled, yes, but every drop of blood carried defiance. Every wound only hardened their will. And against that kind of enemy, even empires could crumble. The human ship drifted closer, its weapons humming. The crew of the Fang held their breath, waiting for the final blow. And then the human commander's voice returned one last time, colder than ice. We warned you. We bleed, but we never yield. Remember this and tell your people if you survive. The message ended, but its weight crushed every soul aboard. For the first time, even Prince Varric's pride wavered. His arrogance cracked under the truth. The humans had shown him what legends were built on, not fear, but reality. The Fang drifted, broken. Its crew broken with it, and still the humans pressed forward, proving the galaxy's deadliest truth. The warship Drelmax Fang drifted in silence. Its great engines ruined, its shields shattered, its weapons burned to husks. Once it had been the pride of the Zor Dominion, a floating fortress feared across star systems. Now it was a crippled carcass hanging in the void. And still the human vessel remained. It hovered close, scarred and burning, yet steady. Its hull was cracked, its lights flickering, but it radiated power. It had bled fire, it had lost pieces of itself, but it refused to die. For the aliens aboard the Fang, that sight was worse than death itself. Smoke curled through the alien corridors. Soldiers coughed and staggered, their claws dragging against blackened walls. Some begged the gods, others cursed their fate, and many whispered the same broken words. The rule was true. The rule was true. In the barracks, young Yarn sat against the wall, trembling. His rifle lay forgotten at his side. His bravado had drained away, leaving only the shaking of a boy who realized he had mocked legends that were never lies. We thought them fragile, he whispered, tears streaking down his face. But they fight like demons in flesh. Sergeant Kral sat across from him, his single eye glowing faintly in the emergency red light. "No," he said firmly. "Not demons, humans, that is what makes it worse. They are not monsters. They are people. But they fight with a will no empire can match." On the bridge, chaos reigned. Systems flickered and died. Officers shouted over one another, desperate for answers. Captain Relor slumped in his chair, exhausted, his scales dulled by smoke. He knew the truth now, a truth no denial could erase. The Dominion was not invincible. Prince Varric, however, refused to yield. His crest was scorched, his armor stained, yet his pride clung stubbornly to him like a second skin. "We are Zor," he roared, though his voice cracked. "We do not bow. We do not surrender. I am heir to an empire, and I will not be humbled by savages." But no one cheered. No soldier raised a weapon. His words were empty, drifting like ash in the smoke. Then the human voice returned, calm, merciless, echoing through the shattered halls of the Fang. "Your empire is not the first to fall. It will not be the last. We warned you. Humans do not yield." The words froze every soul aboard. They were not just spoken to the Fang. They were a message for the Dominion itself, for every empire across the stars. Captain Relor lowered his head, shame burning in his chest. "It is finished, my prince. You sought to prove the rule false. Instead, you proved why it exists." Prince Varric staggered toward him, his claws trembling with rage. "Silence. I will not." Before he could finish, the ship jolted violently. Another strike from the human vessel had ripped through the Fang's communications array. Sparks rained down and smoke thickened. Sergeant Crowell's voice rang across the chaos. "They are not killing us all. Don't you see? They are leaving us alive, so we can carry their message." The realization spread like cold fire. The humans could have destroyed the Fang completely. They had the power, the precision, the fury, but instead they held back. They had spared the survivors deliberately, not mercy. A lesson. Prince Varric's chest heaved as the truth struck him. His arrogance crumbled, replaced by a hollow, gnawing dread. He had wanted to make the humans bleed. Instead, they had broken his empire's pride in front of his eyes. The human voice spoke one final time, colder than steel. "Tell your people humans are off limits. Break the rule, and you will break yourselves." The transmission cut, leaving only the hissing of smoke and the crackle of failing lights. The Fang drifted, powerless as the human ship turned away, its engines flaring one last time before vanishing into the void. No cheer followed. No song of victory. Only silence. The crew of the Fang slumped to the ground, their bodies heavy with shame. They knew the truth. Their mighty dominion had been humbled by a single wounded ship. What would happen if humans came in numbers? What if they came in fleets? Captain Relor rose slowly, his voice rough but steady. "We must return home. We must tell them what happened here. If we do not, the Dominion will fall blind into the same trap again." Sergeant Crowell nodded. His eye burned with grim resolve. "And when we tell them, they will not believe. They never do. But the galaxy will learn one way or another. Humans cannot be measured, cannot be broken. They are the storm we were warned about." Prince Varric collapsed into his chair, his body shaking. For the first time in his life, he was no longer a prince, no longer a commander, no longer a voice of power. He was just another survivor, scarred, humbled, and haunted by the truth. The Fang limped away from the battlefield, a crippled ghost carrying the whispers of a broken empire. Behind it, in the silence of space, the human's words still echoed, etched into the hearts of every survivor. Humans bleed, humans suffer, but they never stop, and empires that forget this truth collapse. The warship Drelmax Fang limped through the void, broken and bleeding. Its engines sputtered weakly, its hull cracked open to space, and its crew huddled in silence. The once proud soldiers of the Zor Dominion were no longer warriors. They were survivors carrying a truth too heavy to bear. Prince Varric sat slumped in his command chair, his crest dim, his armor scorched. He stared at the dark screen before him, replaying the battle in his mind again and again. He had wanted glory. He had wanted to prove humans weak, but instead he had proved the legends true. His arrogance had nearly killed them all. Captain Relor stood nearby, his face grim, his voice heavy with shame. "We must report this to the Dominion. They will not believe us, but they must hear it. If they ignore the warning, our entire empire will suffer the same fate as this ship." Sergeant Crowell, scarred and steady, nodded. "The humans spared us for this reason. They do not leave survivors by mistake. We live to carry their message. But the younger soldiers were restless. In the barracks, whispers spread like fire. Some still clung to denial. It was just one ship, Yarn muttered, his voice thin, trembling. We could crush them with a fleet. This was only bad luck. Krall turned on him, his single eye blazing. Bad luck? You saw what I saw. They bled, they burned, yet they fought harder with every wound. If a single ship can humble us, what do you think a fleet will do? Entire empires have already learned this lesson and vanished into ashes. The recruits lowered their heads, shame burning in their throats. None dared argue further. Days later, the Fang crawled back into Dominion space. Its return was no triumph. Crowds gathered at the docks, staring in shock at the wrecked warship. The whispers spread quickly. The Fang is crippled. The prince has failed. Something has changed. In the grand chamber of the Dominion's council, Varric stood before the rulers, his head bowed. The scars of battle covered him, but the deeper wounds lay in his voice. We found a human ship, he admitted, each word bitter. It was broken. We attacked. We believed the rule to be fear, not truth. We were wrong. The humans fought us to the edge of destruction. They spared us to carry this warning. The council chamber filled with murmurs. Some laughed, mocking. Spared? By humans? Impossible. Others frowned, uneasy, remembering ancient stories buried in their archives. Captain Relor stepped forward, his voice firmer. My lords, we speak the truth. The humans bleed, yes, but they do not stop. They do not yield. And when you break the rule, they break you. They could have destroyed us. They chose not to. The rulers fell silent. Even those who mocked could not ignore the Fang's broken state, nor the fear in the eyes of its crew. Sergeant Krall spoke last, his voice echoing with the weight of survival. We must never attack them again. The rule is not weakness, it is wisdom. Pass it to every fleet, every soldier, every citizen. Humans are off limits. For if we forget, we will fall as others fell before us. The council gave no answer that day, but the message spread regardless. The story of the Fang's humiliation traveled faster than light, carried from soldier to soldier, from system to system. Whispers became warnings. Warnings became law. Across the galaxy, alien captains etched the rule into their ships. Do not harm humans. Some mocked, still daring to doubt, but most listened. And in the quiet corners of the galaxy, in the halls of empires that remembered their own losses, fear returned. The legend of humanity grew stronger. Meanwhile, far from the Dominion, the human vessel drifted back toward its own space. Inside, its crew tended to wounds, patched broken systems, and spoke little. To them, the battle was not victory, it was survival. They did not celebrate. They only prepared because they knew this truth. The galaxy would test them again, and when it did, they would bleed. They would suffer. But they would never yield. Back in the Dominion, Prince Varric sat alone in his chambers, staring into the stars. His pride was gone, shattered like his ship. For the rest of his life, he would carry the memory of that battle. The fire, the screams, the voice of the humans echoing in his skull. We warned you. We bleed, but we never yield. The words haunted him, carved into his soul. The prince, once arrogant, now knew fear. He knew respect. And he knew the truth the galaxy could not escape. Humans were not invincible. They were not gods. They were mortal, fragile, and breakable, but they were the most dangerous enemy of all, because no matter how much they bled, they never stopped. And that was the final lesson.